What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video. And today we're going to be doing day 2, rounds 2 and 3 of this beautiful weekly mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. At this point, we are trying to make the 10K. So on the way to 10K, I'm losing my mind. It is 1 in the morning and I am going to be doing a whole entire hour before having to wake up at 5 in the morning to go on a flight for a couple days. I love you guys so much. I am literally that dedicated to making sure you guys get your content out because I enjoy it. I won't be enjoying it tomorrow morning, but that's okay. I'm enjoying it right now. So, you know what? No regrets. Let's get right into this. Quick little recap of what we did. Again, feel free to check out the first video if you are new. I'll just discuss the trade ups. We had Washington trade up with Arizona. Arizona trade back actually twice, trade back with Atlanta as well. Both of those teams moved up for quarterbacks. The Packers moved up for tackle. And then those were the resulting trade back options. We had Seattle trade back with Jacksonville for Keon Coleman. We had Pittsburgh trade back with Los Angeles to select the top corner over their in-division rival. Then we also had the Eagles trade up with the Steelers as well at that Rams spot so that the Eagles could end up selecting their top guy. Besides that, we ended up actually having Washington trade up with Miami right in front of Dallas to get the top option in Jordan Morgan. And then we also had the Bolts, the LA Chargers, move up to select Nate Wiggins. And then we actually ended off with a bang by having the San Francisco 49ers trade back with the New York Football Giants so they get their 5th-year contract and get to test out J.J. McCarthy. So we're back. Starting out with Carolina Panthers. Let's make this fun. Let's make this quick, and let's make this efficient. So we have, what? Is this 67 picks that we got to go through? That is okay. 68, technically, if we count this one. So 68 picks. Let's rock it. Starting out with the Carolina Panthers, the best thing to do is to go offensive tackle or to go after wide receiver. Abarius Mims is not going to be included in this. He would have probably been a top 15 selection for me. Just got to put that out there. So without him being in the consideration, you could test out Troy Fautanu as being, one of those guys that you trust. But I'm actually going to trade out of this spot. I normally stay here. I'm going to trade out. And the main reason for it is I want Jermaine Burton to pair back up with Bryce Young. And simply put, I'm not taking him at 33, even though my board suggests that that wouldn't be a bad idea because I have Jermaine at 29. I just don't think it's realistic. So we're going to be moving out of this spot. Looking at the guys who are still available, we still do have Joe Milton as the remaining quarterback. That is a very, very talented player. But you got JT Tuimoloau here. The last star edge rusher on the board. I do have Xavier Thomas as somebody who I do have technically above him, but that's somebody that is not looked at in the eyes of the public and probably the NFL as somebody who would be worth taking. And unfortunately, PFF also doesn't agree with that sentiment. So I'm looking at a team right here in the Arizona Cardinals. We traded back multiple times, acquired a ton of picks. This is a very short-range trade, and it's a great way for Carolina to start reboosting their draft capital. I do think that based on the fact that there's one edge rusher left, there could be some teams that are a little bit more eager to make a move up to select a really high upside player. So Carolina is going to be very smart with this, very tactical. The Cardinals, again, we've already drafted defensive interior and corner for them. So drafting edge rusher is kind of the perfect trifecta. For a 2-spot trade up, this would take probably a 4th-round pick. I'm going to be very generous with that as well, by the way. This compensatory 4th-round pick, I'm probably being overly generous. But I'm showing love to Carolina. I've shown a lot of love to Arizona. Like, who knows? Maybe if you're really that butthurt about it, send Arizona's 7th-round pick back to them. So there we go. Arizona moves up to end up selecting JT Tuimoloau out of The Ohio State University. So now Arizona has selected JT Tuimoloau. They've also selected Terrion Arnold, and they've also selected Jerzon Johnny Newton. Kind of a killer trio. At pick number 34 for the New England Patriots, you selected a quarterback in the 1st round in Drake Maye. Could end up getting Tez Walker, getting his guy right here. Apparently, PFF rates him so highly that he is a 1st-round quality player. I don't know if I'm there with him yet, but I have to watch a little bit more of his tape in order to decide whether that is the case. I do think offensive tackle is not a bad position to target for this team. I like the versatility of Graham Barton. My only issue is that this interior of the offensive line is actually really solid. Again, Amarius Mims is returning in this mock draft. So I think going after a player like Brian Thomas is just the smart thing to do. Get 6'4", 204 pounds, or 6'4", 205 pounds. Straight speed burner, needs to develop, but this is a team that now has time on their side. So we're going to go Brian Thomas Jr. here out of LSU. At pick number 35, we're back with the Panthers. I already know where I'm going to go with them, so I'm going to trade back once more. I have a great receiver in Troy Franklin here, which I could send to Carolina, but I do have Jermaine Burton above him, and he has that instant chemistry there with Bryce Young. Therefore, I do want a team that is looking for a really good receiver to end up wanting to move up for him, or a star offensive lineman. I could see a team like the Dallas Cowboys moving back up and selecting the versatility of Graham Barton after trading down. You could also see a couple of teams that are a little bit more hungry for that versatility, being in the mood to test out that theory. So we do still have star offensive line, right? You don't have very many more star offensive linemen, but both those guys are looked at as interior. We do have a lot of really good interior players. We have 4 roughly first-round quality interior offensive linemen, so it is a little bit tough sell on that one. Could try to make a move for Jatavian Sanders because he is by far the second best, unfortunately. Looking at it, honestly, Kamari Lassiter, you can see some really corner-needy teams right now. And I'm actually going to make a move back up with the San Francisco 49ers. They have trade history with this very same team. So Carolina is going to be moving back with San Francisco if my eyes could ever pick up on where it is. It's a 3-trade spot. I actually ended up trading back roughly the same amount right here, 133 from Arizona. Ended up trading away a compensatory 7th, but we're just going to leave it as is. 131 and 38 for 35. San Francisco moves up and ends up selecting star cornerback Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia to be their corner 2 of the future. At pick 36, the Miami Dolphins are blessed to have Graham Barton still available, so the Miami Dolphins select Graham Barton. At pick number 37 for the Arizona Cardinals, already have selected a ton of really, really high-quality players. Star on the edge rushing room, the defensive interior, as well as the cornerback position. So I really like the idea of potentially getting A.D. Mitchell here to be that boundary threat. I could also see offensive line being a potential target here, or even defensive interior again. We have pick number 42, and for me, if you are looking at interior offensive line and want to get a massive upgrade, I do see quite a few teams that could be in the market for some O-linemen. Defensive interior, not so much. So you could potentially wait if that's really where you want to target your next pick. And then wide receiver, again, I think you could possibly wait. I really like the idea of pairing up Johnny Wilson with the squad there. So for me, I actually think the best move would be to go after the best interior offensive lineman available. And to me, that's Christian Haynes, but I think I'd rather go after a center here so I can have center and guard versatility with Jackson Powers Johnson. At pick number 38, Carolina is back on the board, and I am going to finally select Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. A top 30 player on my board at number 29. Just super versatile. He's always been a top 32 player on my board. I've just stayed stuck to my guns, and it's good that, sometimes players just don't get in the spotlight until later on, and understandably so for Jermaine Burton. He's had almost a 200-yard, 2-touchdown game this year. Finally got to show it off because Alabama, he hasn't produced the way he kind of should have. But elusive route runner, very versatile, very aggressive at the catch point, and really solid after the catch too. Just overall a very talented player. At pick number 39 for the Green Bay Packers, we had a move up to select a Joe Alt. And with the 39th selection, the Green Bay Packers are going to be blessed by being able to take Tyler Nubin or Cam Kinchens. I will be selecting Tyler Nubin. I just think he's been more consistent. He's used to that type of weather. To me, that's a home run hit. At pick number 40 for the Dallas Cowboys, missed out on the 2 top centers on the board, and I think that is A-okay. There's a lot of really good offensive linemen in this class, including centers. I love Bo Limmer. He's still like a top 40, 45 player for me. I mean, that's mainly because he's really good at right guard, so that's why he's pushed down a little bit as a center. Defensive interior, I wouldn't be against adding Chris Jenkins here. I do know I was talking about the Cardinals not really having any real pushback on what's going to happen there for their defensive interior. But Chris Jenkins, pairing him actually back up with Maye Smith doesn't sound like a bad idea. I'm personally down for it. We'll see what happens. But Leonard Taylor, he's honestly a freak show as well. I'd be perfectly fine with him there for the Cardinals. I think I want to test this theory out. I don't think defensive interior is the crazy position to target. I do think offensive line probably is the best thing you could do. Again, Amari Smith's returning in this. Could go Troy Fautanu, but I just would rather wait to draft offensive interior and just say, screw it, let's go BPA. And based on my board, it's Jonah Ellis and Chris Jenkins Jr. as well as Dwight McLaughlin. Don't think cornerbacks where they're going to end up going. So Chris Jenkins getting that instant chemistry there with Maye Smith is going to be a great 1-2 punch. At pick number 41 for the Tennessee Titans, we ended up snagging Brock Bowers in the first round. In the second round, the Tennessee Titans will be looking at offensive tackle. I don't really see the value being there except Karan Ahmad-Jadjeh, but I don't feel like this team is really in a position to develop an offensive tackle for a year. I'd rather go to free agency for that. Wide receiver Troy Franklin is just super elusive. He is a really good complement there to Treylon Burks, and I think it would be a very valued addition. Super smooth route runner. You can't really go wrong with a wide receiver with the upside of Troy Franklin. At pick number 42 for the Arizona Cardinals, we have already addressed interior offensive line, interior defensive line, edge rusher, as well as corner. Not many more positions we need to fully address, but I think continuing to bolster that defensive line, never a bad idea. You have so much upside and potential with Leonard Taylor here. I mean, it's just worth taking a swing on. I usually have him continue to fall, but I've been kind of wanting to push him back up my board just because the potential is there. And you already have Jerzon Newton, who is an absolute freak show, who's going to be on your team. Now you have Leonard Taylor and Jerzon Newton. Sign me up. So this is obviously part of that Atlanta trade. So we've ended up pretty much totally revamping our entire defense through this process. Could have went AD Mitchell there, but again, there's so many receivers that will also be there in free agency. Just go best player available, and I really think Leonard Taylor is that guy. At pick number 43, the New York Giants are on the board. This is part of that trade back with Green Bay. So we have pick 43 and 47. I really like the idea of Christian Haynes to this team. I'm going to back off that idea for the short term because I think at 47, he will be there. So at pick number 43, we have already selected J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan, as well as Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU. Those are two of the big positions I really want to go after. Interior offensive line as well, probably the place I want to go. Edge rusher, Chris Braswell would be a good combo with KT. I think that'd be a smart idea. You're just getting super high ceiling guys, and you have that Bama excellence. And Chris Braswell is a great player. You can't go wrong with getting Chris Braswell to be the Robin to the Batman that is Kayvon Thibodeau. At pick 44 for the Las Vegas Raiders, they ended up selecting a first-round quarterback in Bo Nix. So in the second round, to me, the obvious choice is to go after defensive interior. And like Rukororo here, he's just a super stud. Big fan of him, number 33 on my overall board. This team could go a multitude of directions. The question is, who's the best player on the board? I want to look at the corners here, and I still have Denzel Burke. I had the Niners move up for Kamari Lassiter, but that's because Kamari will probably go before. I'm going to go Denzel Burke here. A little PTSD with what happened with the last Ohio State corner you drafted, but everyone kind of knew that he was a bust, and no one understood why he was selected so early. Denzel Burke is a top 22 player on my board at number 22. At pick number 45 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we ended up moving up with the Pittsburgh Steelers to end up selecting a star edge rusher in Braylon Trice. At this point, I could totally see a tackle like Karan Ahmad-Jadjeh being on their radar. I do think that defensive back also on their radar. You have TJ Tampa here. And again, I do think there is a potential likelihood of ending up losing or cutting James Bradbury coming in the near future. Troy Fautanu could be a potential developmental tackle for you, and that would be pretty fun because he actually can play tackle. It's just better as a guard. But if you give him a year with Lane Johnson, your luck might be changing. Wide receiver 3 is definitely on their radar as well. I feel like Howie might be a mastermind here and trade out. You got some really good players on the board that should be going. I got AD Mitchell here, who he's probably one of the best players who is left on the board. And I see some teams that definitely could use his skill set and his height. One of those teams actually being the Texans. I said I wanted to get ballsy with the Texans with some D line, but D line I kind of eviscerated that option for the time being. I don't feel like there's a star player worth moving up for necessarily. I do think AD Mitchell would be a prime addition there in Houston. And we've already addressed that edge rushing position with Chop Robinson. Wouldn't be a bad idea to move up with the Texans. You could select a linebacker as well, but I think Philadelphia would not be remiss to end up going after a trade partner here with Houston. Also, Houston does have some very solid draft capital down the board. This will be 4 spots, so I think pick 117 should suffice. Maybe they end up like snagging 176 in return. But I'm gonna toss in 249. That is going to be the trade. Pick number 45, Houston Texans. They are going to go after that wide receiver route. I think AD Mitchell is special. He's right down the road in Austin, and he's proven to be just a really reliable target. So getting 2 really good players, really young as well, who fell, that is worth the pickup. At pick 46 for the New Orleans Saints, we ended up going Cooper DeJean, superstar defensive back out of, why am I forgetting the name? Iowa. So I could see Jatavian Sanders being the right option here. I think I want to trade out. I really do. I see star players like Troy Fautanu and then also the high upside tight end there in Jatavian Sanders. And when I do see, a team like the Bengals who could be really looking for that next tight end, I even see the Chiefs in here. They are a dark horse team. And in the first round, they didn't even get a receiving threat. They might be a little bit more ballsy to move up. And you got Jayden Polk here. I'm actually going to move up with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to get gutsy here. And for this trade, I'm curious. So 89 would be a little bit too rich, but I do think the Saints could toss in pick 150 based on that trade calculation. 91% chance I am going to take it. So sorry, Chiefs fans, you are going to be, this is our last time hanging out today, but you end up getting a superstar weapon here in Jayden Polk at 6'2", 204 pounds. Really good after the catch. You need to continue adding weapons, and Jayden Polk is a great choice. At pick 47 for the New York Giants, we've already gotten a quarterback. We've already gotten our wide receiver, and I was talking about it. I'm going to go after star offensive lineman Christian Haynes out of Connecticut here to pair up with the crazy athlete in Evan Neal. At pick number 48, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the board. We traded back twice, so we actually have another pick here at pick 60 for us to go after offensive line / quarterback. You've got our defensive back. I think linebacker is a smart move. Looking at the options that are available, Cam Kitchens just isn't worth it for us. I could go Troy Fautanu and just see what the hell happens. Wouldn't be a bad idea. But I actually want to trade with a team that could really use Troy Fautanu. I think I want to go to a team that really could value the potential tackle and guard versatility. Looking at the Rams, I did a trade with them earlier with the Steelers. I don't feel like I'm going to do a similar trade, but I want to see what teams that could potentially be in the mood for that offensive lineman. I'm actually seeing another team that could have been ballsy if they didn't trade their pick to Seattle in Jacksonville. That's a really dark horse spot for Troy Fautanu. You could definitely see a team like the Colts being a really good spot for him as well. But, I kind of like the idea of the Lions getting a star guard here. When you think about it, the Lions, they need a corner, which I do think the Lions trading this far up with the Steelers, so we have back-to-back picks, it isn't a bad idea. And you get TJ Tampa as well. TJ Tampa, Quinion Mitchell, or we could even get Dwight McLaughlin for the Lions. That would not be a bad move at all. This team does need a corner too pretty desperately, and TJ Tampa is solid. I think the Steelers just need to continue getting extra draft capital. I don't feel like the options are right for them at the moment. And based on this trade calculator, I'm going to just see what the hell happens here. So we're going to probably end up getting not too great of a trade compensation. We could end up seeing what happens if we end up, trading 116 and maybe we can get 84 out of this. So this 39% chance of getting accepted. We'll end up tossing a 4th round pick in there as well. So we're ending up trading actually more of our future capital. So the Lions are moving up, but also ending up, you know what? There we go. We'll end up using pick 91. So Steelers add in an extra 3rd round pick because we need all the help we can get. And we're selecting with the Detroit Lions here a star cornerback out of Iowa State in TJ Tampa. Pick number 49, honestly, would have been a great pick for TJ Tampa, the Philadelphia Eagles. We had moved back. Cam Kinchens is still on the board. Totally think we can do it. But I'm actually going to develop Troy Fautanu. At this point, screw it. The value is unbelievable. This guy is my number 27 player on the board as a guard. I think he can actually play tackle at the next level, and he just needs more time as a tackle. So I think this guy could be a superstar. You already have a star edge rusher now in Braylon Trice. Now you have a star offensive lineman as well in Troy Fautanu, both from Washington. Pick number 50, we have the Buffalo Bills, who honestly could have also used Troy Fautanu, but we drafted a wide receiver in the first in Emeka Ibuka. I think at this point, Cam Kinchens is the no-brainer. He just fell because safety is a low-value position. I picked number 51 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Want to double check what we did for him in the first. Jared Verse. That's pretty damn awesome. I'm looking at the offensive tackles here for him. Karan is a developmental guy. Don't feel like they're going to be in the mood for that. Wide receiver, I could see them being in the mood for someone like Johnny Wilson to end up being their Mike Evans. That'd be quite fun. Not going to lie. That'd be quite fun. But I do think that they're going to opt out of that option. They might actually go after Tez Walker over him. Looking at it, interior offensive line-wise, Bo Limmer's a stud. Cooper Beebe, I think, deserves more respect than he actually gets. I'm actually going to go for Bo Limmer here. They opted for the high upside offensive lineman last year in the 2nd round, and I think that you're going to end up hitting on it. But having that center/guard versatility, I'm going to put my foot down. I really, really do like what I see out of Bo Limmer. He kind of cooled off as a center, but as a guard, he was probably a guaranteed 1st round pick. So Bo Limmer is the selection there out of Arkansas for the Bucs. Build through the trenches. Pick number 52 for the Minnesota Vikings. They ended up selecting Dallas Turner in the 1st round. Decided to opt out of a QB. Could go Joe Milton here. That would be kind of ridiculous. I would be a huge fan of that potential there. Of course, I'm having these quarterbacks end up returning. You guys probably could have picked up on that by this time. So I do think that, we've already gone after that edge rusher and Dallas Turner. Hard to really find many other positions that I think would be valuable enough. I think they do end up re-signing Dalton Reisner. I honestly think they could end up bringing back Kirk Cousins because I think that would be the smartest thing you can do. You could go after another edge rusher here. I think running back, getting the best running back on the board, not a bad choice. And you got Trey Benson here. Trey Benson's a super stud. Same thing with Bucky Irving. You can't go wrong with either one. Getting a star running back it's kind of key to the foundation of a team. So we'll get Trey Benson and try to bring back the quarterbacks that we have. The Rams moved up for Kool-Aid McKinstry. So at pick number 53, they do not need to go after defensive back, but I very well might go after the best linebacker on the board. I don't feel like that's the Rams' way, however. So they could develop an offensive tackle for a year, and that's the route I'm going to go. They are going to be the ones to reach on Quran Ahmed-Jadje out of Yale. Star tackle, super athletic, and they need an upgrade at left tackle. Quran might not be available to be an instant starter right away, but he sure as hell will end up being that by the end of his 1st year. At pick number 54 for the Indianapolis Colts, we ended up going after a wide receiver in the 1st round with Xavier Legette. At this selection, I think it is smart to bolster the O-line or the defensive interior. And, looking at the size of these players, Byron Murphy he speaks to me. McKinley Jackson's a great choice too. But Byron Murphy II has been a stud on some of the people who I trust boards. He's actually even top 32. So the value is certainly there. At pick 55, this is by the Jacksonville trade for the Seahawks. We are sitting, honestly, doing pretty well. I think the left guard spot should be an area that we do prioritize. In the 1st round, we selected Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. I do think that wouldn't be a bad choice to go after. I mean, you could go defensive interior here as well. I don't think that would be a bad choice. But I mean, there is potential option to safety there, even though Love just went off tonight. I'm gonna go left guard. I am. And actually, I think the athleticism of Donovan Jackson, I feel like people are underrating the hell out of him. He's ridiculously high upside. So we're going to be going Donovan Jackson here out of the Ohio State University. I picked number 56 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Y'all know exactly where I'm going with this. Jatavian Sanders is on the board, first round Kingsley Suamatea. Hate to be plain Jane, but that's just the best possible outcome that you could ask for. Therefore, I'm going to give it to you. At pick number 57, the New Orleans Saints get back on the board after their trade back with the Chiefs. They wanted the extra third-round pick. They ended up getting it. They have Cooper DeJean on roster. At this point, you could try to develop another offensive tackle here. I don't feel like Patrick Paul is worth it. Defensive interior, is actually probably the best way you can go. I don't really see very much more on your defensive interior for the long run than what you already have out of Clemson defensive interior Brian Breezy, but we're going to pair him back up with Aruka Rorho. Just getting that versatility, and you can use him as an edge rusher. I think it's the best bang for the buck. Pick number 58 for the Browns would have been a great pick for the Browns as well. We're going to go after wide receiver, and you know what? I'm going to cave. We're going to go Tez Walker, 6'2", 200 pounds, out of North Carolina. Could be a true wide receiver one. Feels like a great DPJ replacement. At pick 59 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I was expecting for a really good center to be here, and there is. We got Cedric Van Pran out of Georgia. We actually have three more picks after this as well. But we're going to go Cedric Van Pran out of Georgia, pairing him up there with Broderick Jones. Again, Amarius Mims not coming out in this mock draft. Pick number 60 for the Steelers. This is going to ruffle some feathers, but I'm ready for it. I did this in my mock yesterday, and it is going to be quarterback. I think it's time to at least offer, because I think both of our backup quarterbacks are out anyways, and they're crap in the first place. I think it's time to offer some legitimate competition for Kenny. And the fact is, he hasn't been able to put up touchdowns. He hasn't been able to put up yards. He's a good dude, good locker room guy. I love him. But the facts are the facts. He's just not putting up the numbers that he needs to. The defense is pretty much pulling every game out of their ass, and we're getting very lucky to get wins. I think it's time for a change. I'm going to go after a guy who can throw 94 yards, doesn't care about the outcome of those balls, but honestly does a really good job pinpointing it. He needs work on his footwork, and that's honestly his biggest issue is overstriding and overthrowing. And I think, simply put, he is one mechanical fix away from being able to be pinpoint with all of his passes. You work on his progressions, but honestly, when you have someone like George Pickens and Deontay Johnson, and then, Pat Freiermuth, you only have 3 progressions you really need. I would love to see our offense actually open up under a quarterback who is 250 pounds, big, likes to run the ball, talks shit, and will lower the shoulder. Joe Milton will be the next Big Ben in Pittsburgh if he ends up being here. At pick number 61 for the Miami Dolphins, they ended up drafting a star offensive lineman in Graham Barton. I'm going to draft their second safety in Kalen Bullock out of USC. Pick number 62 for the Dallas Cowboys. We have already drafted what do we draft for the Cowboys so far? Chris Jenkins, defensive interior. I think at this point, the options are pretty limited on centers, but Drake Nugent's a really good player. Just wouldn't draft him here in the second. Offensive tackle-wise, you could go Patrick Paul. I'm going to opt out of it for the time being. I know offensive line's a place that we should go, but I'm just going to go and get the best linebacker that's on the board, and that's going to be Junior Colson out of Michigan. He's 250 pounds, a true Mike. I know the linebacker's been performing perfectly fine, but I want somebody there to be a true Mike for the long run. For me, I think there's just a clear path of improvement with getting Junior Colson here. And you also pair him up, once again, with more Michigan guys. So this could be closer and closer to the Michigan Wolverines defense, which has been absolutely dominant as of recent. At pick 63, the San Francisco 49ers are on the board. They ended up selecting their Georgia corner there to taunt the Eagles and Kamari Lassiter. At this point, I think offensive line with Patrick Paul, seeing if he can actually develop with all of the potential that he has, because he's been extremely consistent, would be the right move for the team. I'm not over the moon about Patrick Paul, but there is a massive drop-off to the next tackle, except Javon Foster. But, I think Patrick Paul is going to get a lot more love than Javon, and Javon's also older than Patrick. So Patrick's been super consistent. I just think they might be a little limited. This team could certainly figure that out. Pick number 64 for the Baltimore Ravens. They ended up going after a tackle in the first round in Tyler Guyton with the 64th pick. The Ravens are going to be looking at potentially moving back because I see Johnny Wilson here, and I'm going to get ballsy. I know Cardinals fans hate this, but we're moving back up. We're doing it. We're using our draft capital. It's 3 spots, super minimal. I think using Philly's pick here, perfectly adequate. The Ravens don't have many day 3 picks in the first place. The Cardinals are moving up and they're selecting Johnny Wilson. They need a big-bodied receiver to pair up with what they already have there in Michael Wilson. So now you have 2 Wilsons, which is going to be cool. But you got Johnny Wilson, who's going to be 6'7", 240 pounds. And you know what? You can just fire and forget with him. He has drop issues, but honestly, he counters that with some of the most spectacular catches you'll ever see. So big fan of Johnny Wilson there. Just to recap what the Cardinals have done, they got Johnny Wilson, so star wide receiver, Leonard Taylor, and Jazon Newton, so 2-star defensive interior, Jackson Powers-Johnson, a star interior offensive lineman, as well as JT Tuimoloau, an edge rusher, and Terrion Arnold, star cornerback. So they've been killing it. Arizona's been dominating. With our next selection, we're back with the Panthers. Ended up getting Jermaine Burton with our first pick and ended up getting some extra draft capital goodies down the line. Edge rushers in my consideration here. Tackle is as well, and I'm going to be going Javon Foster, left tackle out of Missouri. Was a first-round pick for me for a time there and will now be featured as a star tackle here. Great asset in the run game, my number 64 player in the class. At pick 66 for the New England Patriots, we've already drafted wide receiver in Brian Thomas as well as quarterback in Drake Maye. I think Quinyon Mitchell might be a sneaky addition here. They don't need to go after a corner, but when in doubt, thug it out, and that's exactly what the New England Patriots might do here. Again, tackle-wise, I do see Blake Fisher's here, and I actually really like the idea of developing him for a year. We are going to be going Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame, so quick little run on tackles. Pick number 67 for the Ravens. They're back with pretty much the exact same situation, and they're drafting potentially Quinyon Mitchell. I want to double check that I didn't have another Ravens pick, and I did not. Quinyon Mitchell is my dream selection for the Ravens, or let me rephrase that. The Ravens are my dream destination for Quinyon Mitchell. Pick 68 for the Washington Commanders. We have already drafted a star tackle in Jordan Morgan, as well as a star quarterback in Caleb Williams. And somehow, some way, a top 32 player fell to us in Jonah Ellis. So we're getting a star edge rusher out of Utah. At pick 69, would have been great for the Bears to snag Jonah Ellis, but they need center more than anything, more than the Lord himself knows. And, I mean, Drake Nugent's here. I really like Drake Nugent. You can go Zach Frazier if you really want to, but I think Drake Nugent's even better, and he'd be a great fit sticking up there in that Chicago area because Michigan, obviously, relatively close. So he's going to be able to go to Illinois, just a short jaunt away from Ann Arbor. Pick number 70 for the San Francisco 49ers. This was via a New York Giants trade. Yes, so with this selection, I mean, let's see. What can we do? We got Kamari Lassiter already. We got Patrick Paul. Maybe should have been Javon Foster, but it is what it is. I don't feel like this team needs much. I don't feel like they do. And they have so many picks as it is that, not really a huge fan of making a selection here. I feel like it would be a waste of a pick. You could try to get some extra development on the interior of the offensive line here. I mean, you do have Cooper Beebe here. I mean, hell, let's go BPA. Cooper Beebe it is. Kansas State guard. At pick number 71 for the New York Jets. You could look at quarterback here. Fortunately, based on the ones that I have all returning, the next best one's Jordan Travis, and don't really feel like I need to explain that. So at pick number 71, the Jets have already taken tackle. Wide receiver is the best move. It really is. You got to get some extra firepower in there. Looking at the next best one, it probably would be Xavier Worthy or Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey's a fun one, but I think Xavier Worthy is a little bit more consistent. Xavier is going to be the guy who I want to pair up with Garrett Wilson. Pick 72 for the Chargers. They were gutsy in round number 1 and moved up for they moved up for 1 star in Nate Wiggins at the end of the first, but also got Talise Fuaga at the beginning. So with their 2 biggest needs, in my opinion, addressed, I think defensive interior is the right way to go. Looking at the best choices here, you got Brandon Dorless, who I absolutely adore. Let's keep him on the West Coast. At pick 73 for the Arizona Cardinals, I think wide receiver with Brandon Rice could be really entertaining, but we did just draft a star wide receiver, formerly from the West Coast in Calabasas, in Johnny Wilson. So that's a big plus. I think a running back at this point would be actually a really good value selection, but I'm going to go after a linebacker here. When you get a guy like Peyton Wilson, who has just unreal potential to be a true leader of this defense, like I feel like he's a Gannon guy, and I'm going to take him 10 out of 10 times. At pick 74 for the Atlanta Falcons, we ended up selecting Jayden Daniels in the first. So with this selection, we need to go after a wide receiver pretty desperately, and we're keeping Ladd McConkey in Georgia. So the Falcons select Ladd McConkey. At pick 75 for the Green Bay Packers, we're going to opt for running back here. And I think that this selection at pick 75, the Packers will actually, where the hell is he at? What? Where is he? Braylon Allen here out of Wisconsin. It just makes sense. He's 245 pounds, straight line back. They're getting another guy out of the area of Wisconsin. So you're just getting a ton of dudes who are comfortable in this system. You have Joe Alt, who's in the area. You actually ended up with Tyler Nubin, who's in the area. And now you also have Braylon Allen, who is in the area. So all those guys are used to playing the climate as well. Pick 76 for the Raiders. We've already addressed quarterback as well as defensive back with Denzel Burke. I think the right thing to do is either defensive interior or running back. And you got Mekhi Wingo here. I think I could pass on defensive interior between you and me. I think that's the right thing to do. Let's go after running back and get a superstar in Bucky Irving. I doubt that we are going to see Josh Jacobs stay. And now we have Bo Nix pairing back up with Bucky Irving. Pick number 77 for the Seattle Seahawks. We have already addressed quarterback with Michael Penix. We have also gone after Donovan Jackson. And with this selection, I think we're going to be going after a linebacker with Edgerrin Cooper to be an actual will linebacker. Potentially could be a Sam linebacker in the system. Super balanced, but just has 1 year of production, which is tough for a linebacker. At pick 78 for the Broncos, they ended up going Romo Dunze in round number 1. Did not get a trade partner to move back and get a second round pick. So they're sitting here, and honestly, I am actually going to go after a top 32 player on my board in Xavier Thomas, edge rusher out of Clemson. So we'll use Jashin. Well, I let you like Jashin Davis. We'll go Brian Ugwu as the placeholder for my number 26 player, Xavier Thomas. At pick 79 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we traded up for Keon Coleman. This was part of the deal, is that we ended up getting another trade back option. So, or another pick in the third round as part of that trade back. So looking at the options that are left for us on the board, it's not great. You got Zach Frazier there, but I highly doubt that that's the position that we will go and target at this point. You got Josh Newton on the board. He's a star corner. I think that's just the right way to go. Just get BPA. Good player, Josh Newton. At pick number 80 for the Steelers, we have already addressed Cedric Van Pran, so center. We've also addressed quarterback as well as a star position at our cornerback position, pairing up with Joey Porter Jr. We have Kalen King. So I think actually a star safety in, where's he at? James Williams would not be out of the question for this, but we do have pick 91. I think that'd be a good move for us to do at that point. Let's get a linebacker here because too many injuries happening. Not a huge fan of it. We're actually going to go after Michael Barrett, linebacker out of Michigan. He's a little bit smaller, but honestly, I mean, you see the 90.6 grade. He was doing phenomenally this year and pops off a lot. 240 pounds, 6 foot. Going to be a little bit better than our last short linebacker out of Michigan, that's for sure. At pick 81 for the Falcons, we have already addressed Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia, as well as Jayden Daniels. With this selection, I think that, edge rusher is probably the right way to go, right? And you got Adisa Isaac here, who was the sack leader, and he also comes from Penn State. So I'm not sure if he actually ended up playing because I think he was a JUCO transfer, but he might actually have a little bit of synergy there with Arnold Ebiketie. So we're going to be going Adisa Isaac out of Penn State. Just super smart player. That's honestly what I love most about him. Not really much of his technique, but really his processor. He's a really high floor player, and he'll be a welcomed addition there in ATL. At pick number 82 for the Green Bay Packers, we've already addressed running back, tackle, and safety. And with this selection, I'm actually going to go Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback out of Missouri. Getting some extra cornerback depth is never a bad idea, and this team could definitely use some more infusion of youth into that secondary. At pick number 80, well, not the safety core. They haven't been doing too well, but at pick 83, we have the Buccaneers, who are back again, and we have already drafted a star edge rusher for the team. Double checking because I have a bad feeling I misquoted that. No, we did. We got Jared Verse. We also got, what did we get in our last round? Bo Limmer. Man, I love showing Bo Limmer some love. And with the 83rd selection, we already have interior offensive line as well as edge rusher filled out. I do think linebacker is the best thing to do. And Tommy Eichenberg is a talented linebacker. He was supposed to be a top 32 guy for me this year. He declined a little bit, but not nearly as much as to get out of day 2. At pick number 84, the Detroit Lions are back on the clock, and we have drafted a star corner in TJ Tampa as well as a star edge rusher, question mark, in Leatu Latu. So, 2 big impact players. The guards have kind of withered away. You got Zach Zinter here, who I love, but after pretty much breaking his leg, I just don't think he'll end up being drafted in this range, which really does suck, but it is what it is. We're going to look at defensive interior here, and Mekhi Wingo, Braden Fiske, both those guys, Mason Smith as well. They kind of embody exactly what you're looking for from a penetrating defensive interior. And so we're going to go Mekhi Wingo here because he kind of does fit exactly the role that you were looking for out of Kalijah Cansey last year. At pick 85, this is via the Philadelphia Eagles with that trade up back in the first round, or in the second round, excuse me, with this selection. Actually, no, this was actually part of the compensation for the first round trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers when they already moved back. So they get this third rounder from LA via Pittsburgh. So the right thing to do is go linebacker here. Let's get Jeremiah Trotter Jr. a new home. Simple, safe, easy. Like, so far, we ended up getting Troy Fautanu and also ended up getting Braylon Trice and Jeremiah Trotter. It does feel like it's something that could realistically happen. At pick 86 for the Colts, we've already gone after a star wide receiver as well as defensive interior. Not many more positions this team is desperate for, but I am actually going to finally elect to go after one of my favorite corners because naturally you guys draft my favorite corner in Jalen Jones down the board. We're going to allow you to draft Dwight McLaughlin. I'm going to double check that I did not already have Dwight drafted because deep down inside he should have been drafted already, but he was not. So that is A-okay. We're going to end up taking a huge dub here. Max Melton would be my normal placeholder, but we're going to have Shaw Smith-Wade be my placeholder right now for Dwight McLaughlin, cornerback out of Arkansas. At pick number 87 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they drafted Josh Newton as well as Keon Coleman. Kind of a killer 1-2 punch there. I'm actually going to look at Zach Frazier here pretty heavily. Again, I really want Christian Mahogany makes a lot of sense here too. Christian Mahogany is a great player. Not much hate his way whatsoever. Again, we could go actually after another wide receiver for this team to pair up and get someone like Brandon Rice, but not a huge fan of it. Not a huge fan of that pick. So when looking at the best options available, Jack Sawyer's a really good run defender. Could totally see him being a good option. Jasheen Davis, a guy who I really like. Same thing with Steve Linton. There's some good players who are depth edge rushers in this class. So it's hard to say what I would go after. Tackle-wise, man. Like, you get Dominic Puny here, but, I mean, yikes. Of course, if you haven't already picked up, those quarterbacks are returning. I do think we could go after another corner at this point because that is the best possible option. We're actually going to go after a versatile defensive back in Chris Abrams-Drain. He's a top 70 player, definitely on my board at 68, well deserving of the pick. A pick 88 for the Bengals. They've gotten tackle as well as tight end. So defensive interior is logically the next best thing, especially with DJ Reader having his issues. We're going Tyleik Williams here out of Ohio State. Tons of upside. He's a top 64 player at 53 on my board. At pick 69, the New Orleans Saints have already gone defensive interior with Ruke Orhorhoro, as well as corner/safety combo there in Cooper DeJean. So with the 89th pick, I think the right option for this team could be to go tackle. Again, knowing myself, I just totally eliminated any chance of that being a good pick. I actually think Javon Bullard would be a really cool option for this team. Having a slot safety and just pairing him up, having pretty much be the future at free safety, and pairing him up with this strong safety there in Cooper DeJean, you're essentially drafting two super high upside safety options for you. Pick number 90 for the Browns. We've already gone after Tez Walker for y'all. With the 90th pick, I'm actually going to go after Mason Smith out of LSU, star defensive interior player. At pick 91 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think we might need to go actually after a running back potentially. We've gone quarterback, center, corner, linebacker. Not many other positions we really need to target. I like based for the value. I actually think a running back wouldn't be a bad idea here. I just don't think Najee Harris is it. And third round is kind of where we do kind of feast on these running backs. We could end up getting Brandon Rice here, but I'm not seeing too many of the really good receivers that are left on the board. Brandon Rice is the next best one. Could go another cornerback here. Actually, no. We do need a strong safety. We're going to go James Williams. That's the right option. We're going to go James Williams here. At pick number 92 for the Houston Texans, we've already gotten a little bit ballsy. I think we moved up actually for a wide receiver in A.D. Mitchell, as well as going Chop Robinson. We're going to go defensive interior here as well. And we're going to go McKinley Jackson out of Texas A&M, going pure Texas for the majority of this, except for the first round. At pick number 93 for the Cowboys, we're going to get our center here. No more falling for Mr. Zach Frazier. Ended up getting some really good players, Junior Colson, as well as another Michigan guy here in Chris Jenkins. Part of me wishes I chose Zach Frazier here for the Bears, just so I could have gotten another Michigan guy here in Drake Nugent. But it is what it is. At pick 94 for the Niners, not really any position they need to target because they really are just that stacked. I am actually going to look at Tyron Hopper being a blitzing linebacker to pretty much replace, I think his name's Oren Burks. So we are going to get just a super versatile linebacker for the Niners to play with. At pick number 95 for the Baltimore Ravens, we've already gone after corner for them as well as right tackle. So with this selection, with corner and right tackle being gone, Brandon Rice is just really good value to add to this receiving core. Just a consistent wide receiver one there for USC of this past year, son of Jerry Rice, seems to add up. At pick number 96 for the Miami Dolphins, we've gone after interior offensive line / just lineman in general and Graham Barton, as well as star safety. Where is he at? It wasn't Cam Kinchins. I'm tripping. Who was it? Why am I tripping? We ended up getting, I think the USC safety. There we go. Kalen Bullock. I don't know why I couldn't see the Dolphins logo. Funnily enough, I actually want to work for the Dolphins, but maybe not. That's not what I'm going to put with my resume. That's not going to be part of my cover letter. But I do think that this team, you could look for the future at wide receiver in terms of getting some depth speed. Theo Weiss is a fun one. Malachi Corley could be really good because he's really solid after the catch. Tight end, you could end up getting Theo Johnson or Luke Lackey. Actually, getting an Iowa tight end coming from a Shanahan system, not a bad idea. We're going to go Luke Lackey here out of Iowa. At pick 97 for the Buffalo Bills, we've gotten a wide receiver. We've gotten a defensive back as well. I think a corner might be in order here. And you do have a really good one here in Kalen Carson. Like, the value is incredible. High upside. He looks like a badass in that black. And I don't know if you can call that gold, but definitely a valued addition at this point in the draft. At pick 98 for the Jaguars, we've already dressed defensive back, two defensive backs with Josh Newton as well as Chris Abrams-Drain. With this selection, I think right now Christian Mahogany is speaking to me. High upside, high floor, just really consistent offensive lineman that just didn't get the shot he deserved because he had an ACL tear just over a year ago. At pick 99 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we've drafted linebacker, offensive tackle, as well as edge rusher. So, it's a tough sell, but looking at Theo Weiss, I really love Theo Weiss. I love him. He's just not going to go this early. It's a name I really want to continue throwing into the hat. Ricky Pearsall could be a good one as well. Other positions, I do think running back, when you do have someone like Marshawn Lloyd on the board, not a bad option. Cornerback wise, nobody's good enough. Just simply put, we're going to go Marshawn Lloyd here. I don't feel like you need to draft running back because that's not really the Eagle way, but Marshawn Lloyd literally fits what you do to a T. He needs to just fix his fumbling issues, which unfortunately does feel like an Eagles thing. At pick 100 and ending off the draft, we got the New York Giants, who have had a killer day so far. You ended up getting J.J. McCarthy. You ended up getting Malik Neighbors. I mean, hell, you ended up getting also my favorite guard in the class too, Christian Haynes. You got Chris Braswell. Things are good. Like, life is good. So looking at another position you could go another wide receiver, but I don't feel like the value is going to really give you what you're looking for. Defensive interior, there's still some good players here. I could go Braden Fiske out of Florida State, who really does pop off when you watch him. He's a good penetrator as well. And, he's a unique build, but you could build around him and, try to test him out on the defensive interior in that regard. But linebacker wise, like, there is someone who I love here in Curtis Jacobs, who's actually, where's he at? He's my number 52 player in the draft. I like Curtis Jacobs a lot. 6'1", 240. I think it's worth taking a swing on him and seeing where you can end up with him. So that is going to be the draft. Hallelujah. It is really, really late, but I do this because I love you guys. You guys are amazing. You're the reason why I end up, spending all these late nights, because I actually enjoy it, and I think I owe it to you. So thank you so much for showing the support you always do. See you on the far side.